welcome to the Horror Hangout podcast, where two bearded film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time. My name is Luke Condor with a Kate, and I'm joined by my regular co-host, Mr.
Andy Conduit Tanner. Hello, Luke. It's the two of us today.
Ben is doing family stuff, which is very important. I think a daughter's birthday of some kind. Is that right?
Yeah. He celebrated his daughter's birthday over the last few days, so a little bit of celebration, give him a little bit of rest from watching horror movies with his child in the room. That's the least we can do. Also, psychological win for us. He was going to get ahead of us episodes-wise because obviously we took a holiday last week. Now, that advantage he's clawed. He's lost
Are we
it
on
again.
par now?
Yeah,
or
equal, I think.
Pretty sure I've got a bogey or two. I mean, also the podcast appearances.
Surely albatross. Is that a golf thing? That's the best bird you can have.
Yeah. So birdies are the good ones, and then bogeys are the bad ones.
Yeah, and then obviously if you get worse, you get better birds like eagles.
Yeah,
and then worse nose things. Qatar. Oh, I've passed that for a Qatar. It goes down your respiratory tract. So it's Qatar is when it's on your throat and chest, isn't it?
Oh, I didn't know that's what it's called.
It's hard to spell as well. Lots of R's. Looks like a Klingon word.
Yeah,
Qatar.
But we changed to a different bodily fluid.
I've sunk that for a piss.
Yeah, that makes sense. Shit. 2 down.
See, that's the worst you can do.
Yeah, man. How's it been going? How's your week been? Everything all right?
Yeah, good. Nothing too exciting after all this travel and moseying about. Just a week at home, weekend doing a few jobs. As the weather's getting a bit nicer, a bit more outside stuff. Started to try and run again, not quite back to normal runs after I broke myself, but doing all right.
That's good.
How about you? Up to much?
Yeah, I had to expose a small portion of my buttock to a nurse while she injected my buttock with hay fever. A hay fever reduction.
You're getting the hay fever serum.
Yeah, I'm getting a super soldier serum, is what I like to call it. I came out of that hospital room like Steve Rogers from that little metal tube thing he goes into.
Much taller, can't get drunk anymore. Throw a shield real good.
Yeah, it's similar to that. In many ways, it's similar to that. But I just hadn't changed in any way in my body. But I had a bit of a limp.
You can
sniff
it. You can smell the flowers a little bit more now.
Can you imagine Steve Rogers coming out of that machine, looking like a hero, but then also going, "Oh, my bum." That's exactly how I came out of the doctor's office. Yeah.
It's funny though that happened to you, Luke. I don't know if you need to ask any more questions in this one. I had that hay fever serum a few years ago. Now I used to get hay fever terribly.
Yeah.
I went to the hospital. Yeah, much better now. I take a bit of antihistamine in the summertime, but
Kenalog.
used to be terrible beforehand.
Was it Kenalog? Was that the one that you had?
I don't remember what it's called now. It's been a good number of years, but this is why I might ask a few more questions next time we go. They just gave it to me in my arm.
I mean, they did say it could do the arm, but I was like, no, my bum was already out. So
you didn't trust the person administering.
Before
needed glasses. Give a bigger target.
They turned around to sort out the needle, and when they turned back around, I was already on the table, but took hanging out. Ready?
Wow. Here now.
Yeah.
I noticed you had bum needles in the thing there, so I've prepared accordingly.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I don't know how much detail I want to go into on this, but the needle, the nurse said she was giving me a nice needle. I didn't feel it at all. I'm actually not too sure she gave me anything. Just pretended.
A nice needle. Yeah. Did you know? Here's the way to test. Did anyone give you like a cup of tea when you're in the waiting room? Was it like a Dolly's cup of tea where it was just, there you go, have this? Oh, lovely.
Like a make believe. It wasn't even a doctor's office. It was a little doll's house. in the playground.
Now I
Actually,
mention it. No, I think of it. The doctor I saw was like a stuffed hippo.
Yeah. Other than that, other than like getting a fake injection, I've just been doing the usuals, really. Yeah, the
Moseying
usuals,
about.
moseying about, getting on with stuff.
It's all right. Sometimes that's what you got to do.
Yeah, yeah. So in terms of horror news, which is what Ben would normally take care of, sausages. The making of Dog Soldiers book is coming to Kindle in May. So this is like a behind the scenes book about Neil Marshall's film Dog Soldiers, which I know a lot of people say is the very, very best werewolf movie.
It's got to be up there, hasn't it? I mean, werewolves less representation than some of your horror ghoulies, but Dog Soldiers has got to be up there with. It's got to be top 5, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, American Werewolf in London, Howling,
Yeah.
maybe.
What else is there? Ginger Snaps.
Ginger Snaps, yeah, of course, yeah. There isn't a huge amount, is there?
The Wolfman, the original, and there's a Benicio del Toro remake, right?
What's wrong with what's his name? Jack
Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson as a wolf.
Is that Wolf?
I think it's just called Wolf, yeah.
Now, would you count The Wolf of Snow Hollow as a werewolf film?
I've not seen that one.
Oh, you've not?
Yeah. There was also one that came out a couple of weeks. Oh, there's Werewolves Within, obviously.
Werewolves Within. I really like that one.
Yeah, me too. There's also one recently called Hunter something that was apparently really, really good. I need to find out what that name is. If you go searching Hunter something, see what comes up. Yeah.
Have a go. All right. So that book's out on Kindle, and it's about the making of the.
Yeah, so a celebration of Neil Marshall's debut Soldiers vs. Werewolves movie to coincide with the 20-year anniversary. It takes a deep dive look behind the scenes at the cult classic, as well as a full retrospective. You'll find interviews with the cast and crew. Never before seen photographs. No one's ever seen these photographs before. Not even the people who made the book.
Not even the photographer.
Exactly, yeah.
They didn't turn the light on in the dark room after they'd done one. They just were like, right, hang them up, gone, out the room.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. And apparently it's got a foreword by the Howling director Joe Dante and an afterword by American Werewolf in London director John Landis. Nice sandwich of.
That's good. And you guys did an episode on Dog Soldiers, right? It would be a way back now.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and American Werewolf in London at some point.
Yeah, we definitely did that one. Maybe we'll have to go and look at some more wolf films because we've got the Dark Universe Wolfman coming up, haven't we? With who's in that one now?
Wait, Dark Universe isn't happening, is it anymore? Is it?
I thought it was again.
Oh, it is again.
The Dark Universe, on or off, is it's not really the Dark Universe, is it? It's just because The Invisible Man did well, then they will do some more.
Okay. Yeah.
Sort of universal monsters, but definitely not a Dark Universe. Like, repeat, the game is not on right now.
What did you think to that Mummy film that came out?
The new one, I've not seen it. All I know is that Tom Cruise snogs that woman to death, and that's about it. I haven't seen it. I will watch it one day. Tell you what is good. The Mummy Demastered is a video game based on that film I've not seen, and that's really good.
Wait, based on the Tom Cruise movie? Sort
of. The mummy from that is the mummy from the movie. It's the lady mummy, the bad one.
Okay, yeah.
And it's like a roguelike game where you'd like it actually. It's got elements of a Hollow Knight about it and a bit of a Metroidvania. So you go around, you get more abilities, so you can go deeper into this mummy's lair. If you die, the soldier is like a generic soldier you're playing as. Yeah. If you die, he is killed and comes back as like a zombie with all your gear on and all your resources on you. And then you go back as the next soldier, and you can get that stuff if you kill the zombie version of your former colleague. So
it's like a Souls game, but they also have the weapons and stuff of the person.
Yeah, it's good. Awesome. It's good, and like I say, it's a demaster, so it's like a it's done like a side-scrolling, like a I'd say 8-bit, like Castlevania type game,
Yeah.
but it's got like modern features to it. Like you probably wouldn't have actually pulled that off on an 8-bit system.
Yeah, like particle effects and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, sounds good. It wasn't great, the movie.
I will watch it one day. Too many good movies I've not seen.
Yeah, true. Speaking of, have you seen anything good this week?
Not too much this week. After we spoke last week, I finished the last bit of Terror Train. And
Final carriage.
I watched the final carriage of it in the caboose, and it was the person I expected to be the murderer.
The train.
They were disguised not as the person I expected them to be. They tricked me with their mastery of disguise that they're up to. And there's a magician on the film Terror Train, and I didn't realize all the way through. It's like, oh, he's a familiar magician. And there's quite a few extensive bits where this magician is doing these tricks to the students that are on board. It's like very weird that you're dedicating like all this time in the movie to show the entire magic trick this person's doing. Didn't strike me until his name came in the credits. David Copperfield was the magician in that film.
Wow.
His actual magic man, David Copperfield. So I watched and enjoyed that. Have I watched anything else horror related? I don't think so. I've been working through series this week.
Yeah.
So I have caught up with Moon Knight. I guess that's horror. You've got some mummies in there.
Was it the last one? Did it have a elephant in it?
No elephants.
Well, not an elephant.
There was a creature that you wouldn't expect to talk that they meet at the end.
Yeah. Okay. So we're on the same one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was really one of the better episodes. That reminded me of The Mummy. It had some real horror moments in it.
That was really good. Yeah, it did have some really good horror movie like
that episode
tropes in it.
Was directed by Justin Benson and the other guy who did The Endless.
Okay.
Yeah. I like that episode. I thought it was pretty good.
I like that, and I think the series is coming together quite well now.
Although this final kind of left turn is quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, without spoiling it, we can't say very much about it. I'm enjoying it, and I'm going to be in for the next episode. And then I'm also, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna call it. It is worth mentioning from a horror thing because it has the horrors of war. I'm watching Halo as well. I'm up to date in that, I think. It's really good. Like, and I say that, and I'm saying that as someone who
you're a Halo
fan
person,
of the game.
Right? Yeah.
I do like Halo, but I think some of the criticism it's getting is from people who really like Halo. I think I like Halo just enough to enjoy it because I like the story, I like the action, I like it when I see like things from the game, but I don't need it to be exactly the same because the problem with trying to do a direct adaptation of that is that you're making a story that you want to be an interesting television program from something that was made as a game, and the story and the lore has developed over 20 years now. So you couldn't do this is Halo 1 and you are running through the story of that, because they injected that backstory and the other things that make the characters more interesting later, and you can't just not get to them until season whatever. But it's been really good, and there've been a couple of episodes of decent like character development, still a bit of action but not all out. But then in the last episode that just dropped, I think it was episode 5, the last one I watched, there was a really, really good action scene, and there's some brutal moments in it. Like in the opener of the first episode, there's just these like roustabout kids, mucking out outside the town, having some funny cigarettes out around the back of the bike sheds. And then the first bit of action, you get one of them gets their arms like melted off by like plasma guns. It's crazy. And
nice.
they don't hold back on it. It's a good series. I'm enjoying it.
Halo, the first game, had maybe like one of my favorite horror moments as a kid playing in sort of any medium, like the introduction of the flood, because we had no idea what that was going to be in the game. That is just as the game was advertised, you just thought you were going to be fighting normal aliens with faces, not zombie aliens. But then I would recommend anyone who's sort of interested, go and watch like a YouTube reaction of someone playing that section for the first time, because it's a really well set up horror piece. Yeah, it's fantastic.
And the whole thing in that game, that the way that the score changes and the way
Yeah.
that you have to play the game changes
Yeah.
fundamentally from everything else you've done in that. And I remember playing the original trilogy, and like after all, I was like, oh god, not the flood. Like you actively stop and think, oh, they are the worst things to fight, because it is such an assault versus like the way
Yeah.
they fight versus the way that, and it's really smartly done in terms of AI, right? You go from soldiers that have an interest in keeping themselves alive and they're trying to outmaneuver you versus an enemy that will just throw bodies at you like
Yeah.
mercilessly. It's really, really
Self-destructive stuff.
effective.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
awesome.
really, really effective stuff. I hope, and you would imagine, I'm not sure if it'll be a season 1 thing. I imagine if this Halo series does well to enough to continue,
They definitely
you'd
include
see
the
the flood at
some
some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been it really for me, apart from this week's film.
Yeah, I think it's been a busy one. I've it's Moon Knight, which is quite fun. Doing more Supernatural. We're nearly at the end now.
I was going to ask how that was going. You're almost there.
I think we've got like 10 more episodes left. So they're trying to like wrap up and stuff, and it's interesting to see them try to put that together. It's been worth it. It's definitely been worth it. It's been way better than I was giving it credit for a long time. It's like, I don't know, if you liked Buffy and Angel, it's that kind of vibe to some extent. Yeah, it's fun. And the horror moments, it does have some real horror moments as well. But I'll tell you what, this past week, I've been in a real comic book mood. You know, some weeks, all I want to do is read comics. I think it's because if my mind's a bit busy, let's say the day-to-day is a bit busy, comics are very easy to just kind of escape into, and they don't take too much thought. It's all visual. Like you don't have to read words or pay attention to a moving screen. Like you can do it at your own pace. A movie moves all on its own, but a comic, you're in control.
You're in control of when it's moving.
Yeah. So I ended up reading the first 2 trade paperbacks of the 4 comics that Jason Aaron run.
Okay.
So this is before Natalie Portman comes in.
Before Natalie Portman.
Before that 4. Before that 4, it's the 4. So it's weird. So I mean, it's the Gore the God Butcher stuff, which again is quite horror-y. There's basically a guy who wants to kill all gods, and they're going around murdering loads of gods, and 4's kind of investigating, and he's finding dead bodies, like ancient dead bodies. And weirdly, seeing the trailer for the recent 4 thing has made me think they're definitely going to do something with that, because there's one shot, and I'm like, that's a panel that was like 1 page of the God Butcher story. So yeah.
So the God Butcher is he's the villain of the new one, right? It's old Batman himself, right?
Batman,
Christian Bale.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'd not actually looked too much into what they were doing.
Christian Bale is the villain. I couldn't tell you for sure if he is the God Butcher, but I know he is the villain of the piece.
The only thing I'd say, so reading these trade paperbacks, I can see a lot of what they've taken from these comics to make the 4 movies. Like even some of my favorite bits from Ragnarok were taken from some of these comics, and I just thought it was Taika Waititi's input. The only thing that's missing is the irreverent humor that is completely
That's very him. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And in a way, I actually kind of really like it without the irreverent humor. Like it's not serious, but it feels very mythic. It feels very like it feels like you're reading about a real pantheon, like a real story of Viking gods and stuff.
I might have to
look at the God Butcher storyline is premium comics. It's like one of the better things I've read.
I have to look into that and grab those. I don't think certainly haven't read them in the past. Thinking of seeing the influence on Thor Ragnarok. Have you read Planet Hulk?
No, I saw the animated film years ago.
there's a few slightly different choices in the animated film because things they didn't have license for that they couldn't use. It's worth reading the book, and there's bits that you skim over. It's a you lose some of the quieter moments, and you lose some of the other things that happen in the book. I like it. It's a good series. I know people's mileage with Marvel event books will vary, but I really liked it. It's really good.
Yeah. I'm enjoying reading comics. I've also been reading some of the recent Venom comics.
The Donny Cates ones.
No,
the new one after that.
It's quite good. It's got quite a Terminator vibe to it, which is quite interesting. Very 90s in a weird way. I don't know what else I've been doing. Playing more Elden Ring, which is full of horror. You really need to give it a proper go. I think.
I know. I need to have some time to sit down. I've still not had time to. I had a few minutes to indulge in the horror of. I was at the very end of Crash Bandicoot About Time.
Yeah.
And it's just at the point now where the levels are just disgustingly they're built on purpose to frustrate you. And I just needed to, and I finished it now. So now I will, maybe having dealt with that frustration, I will then go and give Elden Ring another shot.
Yeah, it's good, man. I felt like that last Sonic game was trying to troll me. It was purposely being difficult.
Sonic Mania?
Yeah. Was that it's a 2D one, right?
Yeah.
It was great. It was really, really good. Some of the levels, it purposely made you speed up for certain bits, and then it knew you were going to jump over one bit there, and then the wall bounced you right into some spikes. Yeah, it felt like they were really
trying to get you.
Yeah.
That's how I felt with the end of Crash Bandicoot. But I'm excited. Completely off topic. Maybe the horrors of that drowning music, but I'm excited for just in time for my birthday. That Sonic collection is coming out.
Yeah.
Very cheeky little remastered original trilogy. Yum.
Cool.
Other than that, the Lighthouse, a film you've been looking forward to for a while, right?
Yeah. I've been recommended it many times. I think people know that I like kind of slightly weird stuff, and they're like, "Well, the Lighthouse is what you want to watch." And I've been very excited to watch it. And after seeing The Northman last week, have you seen The Northman yet?
I haven't been yet. No.
For me, Robert Eggers is 3 for 3. 3 incredible movies. The Northman,
the Eggman himself,
so good. The Eggman himself, yeah. So The Lighthouse is a 2019 film directed by Robert Eggers. It's about 2 lighthouse keepers who try to maintain their sanity while living on a remote and mysterious New England island in the 1890s.
Why don't you spill your beans, Tommy? Why don't you spill your beans?
Tom?
Why don't you spill your beans?
Tom?
Why don't you spill your beans?
I'm tired of your damn fool yarns and Captain Ahab horse. You sound like a goddamn parody.
You think you're so goddamn high and mighty? This is your goddamn lighthouse keeper? I want a goddamn steak!
You don't like me cooking?
Oh, don't be such an old bitch!
You're fond of me lobster, ain't you? You're fond of me lobster. Say it. Say it. Say it. I don't have to say nothing.
Damn you!
All right, have it your way. I like to cook it.
It's been reviewed very favorably. Rotten Tomatoes has it at 90%. Critic score, the user score is 72%, so a bit low. They're not as happy about the art house stuff. IMDb is 7.4 out of 10. Letterboxd is high, 4.1 out of 5. That's pretty good for Letterboxd. However, Fwug said this movie must be the movie that can enter the list of movies I don't like. Half a star. Fwug obviously is a caveman Neanderthal.
Yeah, and he's given a real straight down the line, down the barrel. This movie must enter the list of movies that I do not like.
Yeah.
I mean, fair. He's not been disrespectful, I guess. He's really just said how it is.
Saying how it is, yeah. Harry Neff put not a cell phone in sight, just guys being dudes, and no rating on that, but spot on, really. This is exactly
it's
how
just
life
guys
used
being
to be.
dudes. Sometimes you'd have before we all had mobile phones, anti-social media, that's what they call it.
Mhm.
Before that, who knows? You'd have a little sing-song with your mate. You might look like you're going to give them a kiss, but then punch each other in.
Drink some terps.
Yeah, drink some terps. To be fair, Luke, I think I'd been reliably informed. Listening back to last week's episode, I'd understood that the film was mostly about wanking and beans. Those things both feature, not actual beans, metaphorical beans.
Did you so you knew it had wanking in it, you knew it had beans in it. Did you have any idea of what kind of film this was going to be?
I didn't remember. Looking back as I was reading the notes, I now recall when it first came out that it's based on an unfinished H.P. Lovecraft story, right? And I know that disappeared. So apparently, this is what I was reading anyway on reliable internet source wikipedia.org. So I understand that it was an H.P. Lovecraft story which he died having not finished, and Robert Eggers and team were putting it together, but they dropped a lot in the production of the movie. A lot of the Lovecraft stuff kind of fell away, and it became more of an examination of the characters rather than, I guess, if it had been like H.P. Lovecraft is not alive to ask, and if he was, he probably would have said something racist, given what we learn about him these days. But the I guess if it had been his original story and it was finished, it would have been a big old ghouly monster, more, that was undescribable, unnameable, perhaps, at the end.
I mean, it could have gone that way.
Yeah.
I still feel like it's got very Lovecraftian, vibes. I wouldn't, even though I'm not just saying tentacles, but the fishiness, the kind of higher existence of some kind of higher thing that turns people mad.
That makes people mad, right? And then, there's a lot of things that kind of make me reminisce about other storytellers. That seagull has real Black Phillip energy as well.
Yeah. This is, is it what I kind of expected? I don't know. What I will say is the visuals. Oh, that's it. So I think you go into this kind of film, like The Witch is very slow, like it's paced, almost like it was filmed by, edited by people of the 1890s. This film, I went into this thinking it's going to be the same kind of thing. The pacing in this film, it doesn't feel slow or metered in that same way. It feels quite breezy, even though it's quite like heavy, and it's just a lot of talking and a lot of there's a lot of I don't know what you call this technique. Someone would scream like a maniac, or like just about to scream, and it would cut to the next day, and they're suddenly quiet and they're in the rain or something.
Yeah, quite often it did like a sort of. It's like in the on social media, the perfectly cut screams.
Yeah,
there's quite a lot where something happened and she goes, ah! And then it'll just stop, like the bit where he's emptying the chamber pots. Yeah. And there's a strong wind, and he goes to tip them out, and they blow back in his face, and he's just got a face full of shit. He just like it, and then it just cuts. I found that you say about the pacing on this one. I found it almost. It has a little tiny ramp up at the very beginning, where it's like you're at popular tourist attraction, Alton Towers. You're riding on the Nemesis, and you got that little ride up to the top at the beginning. But then, literally after that first turn, I would say probably from the point he bashes the seagull onwards to the end, it just, when the wind changes, it goes from he doesn't really get on with his boss at work. It's going to be maybe like the slow burn leading to the insanity of The Shining. Something like that, to literally the wind changes, and then everything is hell for leather then until the end. Yeah.
It's like Robert Pattinson. I don't know how anyone could say anything bad against him as an actor still in 2022. Like, he puts so much into this performance, and it's so like I don't know, authentic. Like when he's like Robert Eggers on set, it's like, yeah, just kind of act mental. He goes, all right, and he completely acts mental. There's no like doubt in his mind as an actor. Like it's complete commitment to the part.
Yeah, and he goes so hard in this. He's the king of the Eggers and team that wrote it have got an idea in the script here as well. But this guy will spin a metaphor and go on to a rant.
Yeah.
With the best of them. Such a performance. But I think with Pattinson, like again, maybe like the film going community needs to accept that sometimes people know what they're doing with casting, and when it comes to casting these things, you don't need to go insane every time a Batman that you haven't imagined has been cast. Because if you think back, like bearing in mind the commitment that was required at the time when Michael Keaton was announced as Batman, people sent letters to the studio, physical letters.
Yeah, I did.
As saying, "Oh, this guy's as a baby." Just a little handprint.
Yeah.
Like physical letters, because this comedy actor had been cast as Batman, and I'm pretty sure to a degree when they cast like Heath Ledger as the Joker, which nowadays a lot of film-going fans will wank over harder than a little sculpture of a mermaid when you're stuck in a lighthouse. But you know, when he was announced as that character, as playing the Joker, a lot of people were like, "Oh, that guy from that gay cowboy movie, I don't like that at all." Fools. But Rob Pattinson, the same. Like you do this, I think his reputation was tarnished by having done the Twilight movies for so long that people who've probably not even seen the Twilight movies that think
constantly
they're not for me can't see past that he did that job.
Oh, does he glitter in this one? Like it's constantly like such an easy comment to make, and it's nonsense. I mean, I'm sure he got paid a nice bit of money for those movies, and was able to build a long career. And if he didn't do those movies, like you probably wouldn't have him in this film, absolutely tearing it up,
absolutely ripping it up. But like to be fair, like think about almost everyone from those movies. Like those things are star-studded. Even the people that aren't the big names that have gone on to, well, they have gone on to other things, but there's such a huge like number of incredibly famous people now early in their careers that are in those movies.
Yeah, I mean we can't Willem Dafoe is kind of thing is Willem Dafoe is, I know he's amazing in this film, and there's things he does in this film I'm like, wow, that's like commitment to the part. But I mean we kind of expect Willem Dafoe to be a fantastic actor, but there's bits in this where he's kind of doing like a 10-minute long speech cursing.
This is like basically like almost like a Shakespeare role in that he pulls off here. It's very like theatrical stage lead almost, you know, really banging out those soliloquies and the big long monologues where he tells the stories. Really, really like you can imagine like there isn't a set, like the set and everything else falls away and it's just a guy like delivering the shit out of these lines.
Yeah. If I was on set, I would be a little bit scared. I have to say, if I saw those two going at it, I'd have to check in afterwards to make sure they're all right. Whoa, hang on, guys! Stop the cameras. Are you two okay?
Yeah, smell those bottles. Is it really terps?
Yeah. There's also like the visual aesthetic, the black and white, but it's not just black and white. It looks like a daguerreotype or whatever those old-fashioned photography technologies they used to use.
Yeah, it's got like the Nosferatu super high contrast feel to it, right? Like
that guy with blonde hair is like so blonde, like his hair's like it's been like Tipp-Ex done or something.
Yeah, and then the darks as well. Like if you're behind either of our heads, actually, like look at the shadow on Willem Dafoe's face on that line there.
Look at them wrinkles. Yeah,
he's got a torch under him, like he might be saying, "I'm the leprechaun," like Wayne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much just those two guys. There are other actors in there, like the platinum blonde guy, but he's more of like a vision, and there's also a mermaid.
A mermaid that, depending on your mileage, is another vision or is actual mermaid sent to get him. And then the other characters, really, there's the seagull.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
he is a real
do you
character.
consider the seagull a character? And then is Willem Dafoe another character when he's dressed as Triton, Little Mermaid's dad?
Yeah.
It's just him in a disguise.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like a theater vibe, isn't it? It's just those two guys hamming it up in the best way. I mean, how do you start?
I mean, it starts. It's the entirety of the course of Robert Pattinson's character arriving to start his job at the Lighthouse. Right? There's a vacancy for a lighthouse keeper to work with Willem Dafoe, who's like the chief lighthouse keeper, and it's about him just learning his place in his 4 weeks, little rotation up there, and it's about him being given his duties. And Willem Dafoe starts with a little toast, and at the time, Rob Pattinson's character doesn't really come out of himself. He's very quiet. He tries to join in the toast a little bit, and then he has a little sip of the water, and it's skanky because he has to. One of his duties is going to be to make sure the pump stays clear so they can get good water.
Yeah.
And he will do anything, and we cover this early. He'll do anything but show him the light because that's his duty to attend. Yeah,
even though in the manual it says you're supposed to rotate shifts for the light. But yeah, we get the vibe that Thomas Wake, who's Willem Dafoe's character, is overly protective about the light. Like the light belongs to him. Also, like there's like a constant foghorn sound. It sounds like a really amazing synth. Like it doesn't sound like a real foghorn.
Yeah, I'm not sure I could recreate that sound, but it's really like oppressive and like almost constant. It's one of those sounds that you get so used to hearing that you notice when it is gone.
Yeah.
Briefly, like, and it's in the movie for most of the running time. So I just took this dog in who, having got up to get a drink, now is going to just casually scratch the sofa next to me until he's tucked back in. That's a good throw. He's covered back over. But the sound, you could mention it all the time because sometimes there's really, like, again, a lot like the camera work, some old time, really like orchestral, theatrical things. It feels like old time radio plays almost, with the way the music is used. Yeah,
I know what you mean. Yeah. Before I've got to say, did you pick up any? So Robert Pattinson's got like a mustache. Did you pick up any kind of Nigel Thornberry vibes from him? Like, there were times I was like, he would make a fantastic Nigel Thornberry.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't thought of it, but now you've mentioned it. I'm going to start petitioning. Bring back Wild Thornberrys. Get him in.
I think it's about the tash and the teeth, that combination. He's got quite it's got like a Roman nose, doesn't he? Like
quite a triangular nose.
Yeah. His accent. What is his accent? I was like picking up like Boston.
Yeah, I felt like a Boston.
I don't know American accents that well, so maybe I'm completely off there.
But like it's kind of like a Boston.
There's one bit where he shouts "fart" really loud. Fart.
The farts.
Farts. Yeah.
Yeah. The rancid fart. No, he's not Australian. Come on. Like, but it's
Spain.
Yeah.
The rancid farts.
The farts are too much for him.
I'd love to see this film where they both speak Australian.
Yeah. Just a remake. It's just a different lighthouse in Australia this time.
Yeah.
Nicer weather, I'd imagine. But yeah, so that's where we go. Like, this is the ramp up that I was talking about. The early section, really, it's just Rob Pattinson doing his jobs.
Yeah.
And it's only before it makes the turn even that he even that Thomas even asks his name. Beforehand, he's just doing the jobs. The seagull is tormenting him, and he gets told off by Tom Waite quite often. He's like, "Oh, you're doing a shit job." There's a bit early on where it's like, "You haven't cleaned this. You haven't cleaned these floors." I did clean them really well. He goes, "Bollocks, mate! Don't you tell me you've cleaned these. You've cleaned them 50 times. If I tell you to clean them 50 times and then take the house apart and then suck the nails clean and then put the house back together again,
that speech
you'll
goes
do it
on
and
for
you'll
ages.
think that's brilliant." Yeah, and he really tells him off.
And then Robert Pattinson says, "Sure, whatever."
But yeah, he says, "Yes, sir," and he goes, "No, not yes." He's really saying, you have to say "I," not
it's
yes.
like a ship captain.
You've got to speak nautical.
There's a bit after that. He tries to shoo off the one-eyed seagull, and Willem Dafoe's seen him do this, and he says, "Don't fight with the birds" or something. And then Robert Pattinson like says, he kind of waves it off, and then
I'll fight him for one.
And then Willem Dafoe slaps him around the face really hard, really suddenly.
Just don't fucking fight with that bird. It's bad luck to kill a seagull.
Yeah,
I mean, that seagull is asking for it though, because like he even goes and wakes him up at the night, isn't he? So like that after that night where he stands in his way when he's got the wheelbarrow and won't move.
Yeah.
Then he comes and pecks at the window to wake him up. This seabird's a real son of a bitch.
Yeah, that seabird has got one eye. Interesting, because there's something else with one eye later on. Unless it's a hint to some sort of phallic. Are we talking about penises again? The lighthouse is phallic. There's a lot of masturbation. There's a one-eyed bird.
It's a one-eyed bird. Someone else is not as just the one eye at the end. Someone else says, there's lots of one-eyed things about it. I'm sure there's lots more metaphors to be pulled from this that I've not read enough essays on to have pulled out myself yet. But on the night that the bird wakes him up, he has a little nip up to the top to see what Thomas is doing in the light. And we don't see exactly what he's doing this time. Later on, we get more of a hint, and it gets more explicit and spooky. But right now, it just appears that he's sitting shirtless on the floor, just watching the light.
Isn't it weird? Because like, I'm pretty sure I've seen a lighthouse light before, and it wasn't that impressive. I mean, maybe it was like a big friend one. It wasn't like this one. This one's like a spinny one. I don't even know. Does it need to do that? Surely it just needs to point out to sea.
To the rocks. I guess to catch your attention, like an indicator light. Just has to. Yeah,
but you could make it blink, put a bit of piece of paper in it on and off or something.
That'd be something for the lighthouse keeper to do, wouldn't it? Just blink it on and off.
But this one, like a lot of what their job is to keep it spinning, right?
Maybe because though. Are they on? Because they're on like a little remote island, aren't they? A little spit of land.
That's right.
Maybe so technically the ships could go. The ships could be coming all around.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, all right.
Let them off. But also, you say that you've seen a lighthouse light and it's not impressed. That's because we live in the modern era, Luke. You know, all the world's information in the palm of your hand. More series and books and comics to read. In the days of the lighthouse was set, this is the era where thousands of people would turn up, and would travel a long distance to watch the train go by or something like that. Highlight of their lives.
I guess it would be pretty spectacular to see a giant light
that revolves.
That invites you inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That may or may not have metaphorical spooky tentacles in it.
Yeah.
But it's not a completely wasted trip because he sees Willem Dafoe kind of spaced out up there. But he finds a little carving of a mermaid while he's amongst it.
A scrimshaw.
And thinks,
which I had to look up.
A scrimshaw? What is a scrimshaw? Educate me.
It's like a carving made on bone, usually made like on whale bones and gristle.
Okay. And when Robert Pattinson finds this and he goes,
"Yeah,
bone, you say? That gives me an idea."
Yeah, I've got a boner for you.
He tries to carve
he starts carving something else out on a bone. I mean, it's weird, like how often we see him furiously masturbating. So I feel like it's
Well,
at
later
least
on, he gets kind of corrupted because he's really trying to finish, but he obviously has watched a bit of anime in his downtime, and now he's all confused. He's trying to
yeah,
sort himself out over the mermaid carving again. And later on, he can't manage because he keeps having horrible visions of tentacles.
yeah, and mermaid vaginas and
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff, and the blonde hair of the guy, who we find out.
What's happened there is he spent so much time. I mean, there's no internet for him these days, but he's found his contemporary equivalent in those days of yore.
Yeah,
What he's done is he's spent so much time wanking his days away on his own that he's become really niche. And now it's like, oh no, it has to be this certain thing. It has to be right. Imagine everything. Right. Think of the scrimshaw. Think of having sex with that mermaid. I thought, oh no, tentacles. Willem Dafoe. What's happening?
Yeah.
No.
he's
My
kind
mind.
of having it off to the porn website in his mind, and then the tentacles and the blonde-haired guy like the pop-ups. Spoiling it just at the wrong minute.
Yeah, the pop-ups. Yeah, they're the pop-ups that ruined it.
Yeah.
I mean, as we're on there, what would the porn parody of the Lighthouse be?
I don't know. What do you mean? The name?
Yeah, what would you call a porn parody of the Lighthouse?
The light arse.
Yeah. That's the winner. If anyone else has got any ideas, write in.
I think there must be a better one than the light arse.
It depends what accent you say it in. Like, if you do it in his Boston accent.
Yeah. I can't really. What's the do it again? The farts. Farts.
The fats.
The
It's
farts,
like
that's the one.
it's like it's the A's, isn't it? So it's the car and pack the car.
Farts. Ass. The light ass. Okay. Yeah. We'll fix some more. Maybe in the name game we'll have a couple.
We've got some time to think of a few.
Yeah.
But that terrible wanking disaster he has doesn't come just yet. First things first.
He has
He's still
a good wank initially.
Yeah, he has a good one. Everything is I tell you what, as long as I can do that, I will stay sane for this entire trying work environment. It's a hostile work environment. Works real hard. You've got to do arbitrary olden days jobs like turn a handle and shovel coal.
Yeah. Move
more
oil
dogs into
ladders.
the furnace. Yeah, all the ladders.
Yeah. Trying what kind of else happens around here.
So they do start to make a little bit of headway. Willem Dafoe asks him his name, and his name is Ephra.
Yeah. Winslow.
Ephra Winslow. So, Ephra Winslow's my name. He goes, all right, that's great. And they start to get a little bit closer. Is this where they have their first? They have a little sing song, maybe do some shanties.
I don't think he drinks for a little while, does he? I don't know because I think he drinks on the night before he thinks he's going to be picked up by the.
Yeah,
ship.
that's it. Yeah, he has a drink. He has a drink a little bit later when he's having a final toasting. But yeah, he's not drinking. But he tells him the story of that. Why he came. He's like, yeah, used to be a woodsman. I'd like to find a different way of life. I've moved from one job to the other. I've had loads of jobs that I didn't much care for, but this is a job where I could get my head down, save my wages, and then I could work the land and have the life that I want. So he's there to save his money. But the next day he is out and about. He goes to have a lovely glass of water, and it's all bad. So he goes out, and there's a seagull that's injured, that's dying in the water, that's all bloody. It's not the one-eyed seagull. That one comes over and starts giving him grief again.
It does like an immediate shit as soon as it lands on the thing.
Yeah,
I spotted it. I was like, I saw that.
He's like, I can get in
Great
there.
acting there. I wonder if they put that in with CGI.
Yeah, maliciously, like obnoxious shitting. As soon as he sits on the water, I think your water's bad now because it's full of blood. Do you have some of that? and that's the last straw. It's quite a violent scene, this, isn't it?
Again, Robert Pattinson going all out with his frustrations. as a bit of motivation, Robert Eggers said, he remember them Twilight movies? You prick. And
No,
then
you're gonna glitter in this. I like for every bad take you do of this one, I'm gonna add 1% glitter
yeah,
in the after effects to you.
yeah. So Robert Pattinson like did it in one take. Such was his hate of glitter and glittery bits on his face. He absolutely annihilates this poor seagull. I mean, to me, it looks like a real seagull. I don't know how they. I mean, it must have just been a fake one, I guess.
Yeah, it must have either CG'd or just like a model seagull that they could. You think like, yeah, the guy isn't. He's not Ben's mate, Jared Leto, method actor extraordinary. He killed hundreds of seagulls.
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson just like in the film he grabs the seagull. The seagull's pecking at him. He manages to catch it by the head. Seagull doesn't fight smart. Gets within his reach. He gets clobbered, and then it's basically, for those who haven't seen the film, and spoilers by the way, it's like that bit at the end of the Avengers when the Hulk grabs Loki and just thrashes him around.
Yeah, pretty much exactly like that. I mean, this, I can't remember where it does the end of it. Maybe he screams and it does one of those cuts to the next bit. But at this point, the schedule to be picked up again tomorrow for the change around. But like it's absolutely hounding it down with rain.
The wind's changed. Yeah, we see the weather vane go from like lovely south.
Yeah. To angry
to north, which is not N for nice weather. Not at all. It's N for not nice.
But also I think they've had some lobster by this point. Maybe they have some lobster at this point this evening. But because it's the last night, at this point, by the way, I don't think Winslow's drank any water. Every time he's going to drink some water, like it's been fucked up for some reason. Yeah. He put some like white powder in there to try and clean it out. I don't know what that was. Soap or
it's
something.
like the sawdust, like when someone's sick at school and you got to put the sawdust out.
Yeah.
To dry it up. It's a bit of that just to dry up this
bit of fluoride in there. I don't know. So he drinks this night and then they get absolutely hammered. I think
they do, and they have some lovely sing songs. They have a good time. This is them celebrating because the inspector's come in and he's going to get picked up the next day, and he's heading home to the end of his shift.
Yeah.
But the wind's changed sadly, and now there's a storm coming, and the ferry is cancelled, so it's not coming to pick him up. And is this? It's shortly hereafter where he sees the mermaid. He might have seen a glimpse of what he thinks is the mermaid in the sea earlier on, but this is when he.
Yeah, I think so. And he goes to help her up or something, but then she like howls in his face.
Yeah, he sort of looks at the face first, and she's got all seaweed on her face, so he pushes it off.
Yeah.
And then he lingers a little bit too long on her boobs, giving them a little like, I'm just checking for your heartbeat, but he's giving them a bit of a groping. And we don't see mermaid crotch at this point, but don't worry, mermaid crotch pervs listening along, you'll get a chance. It's not that, but he has a good look. But then she wakes up and absolutely howls at him.
Who could blame her? Stranger danger, she shouts.
Yeah. And
he didn't say anything to Thomas. He just kind of runs away sheepishly, puts his head down. Nothing weird's going on.
Gets his head down, sprints. He's like, oh, what's going to be more embarrassing if I tell Thomas that I saw a mermaid, or that I got absolutely busted feeling her up, because he's all at odds with it. So he just doesn't say anything and gets on.
Do we feel like so basically after he killed that seagull, he's kind of cursed them? Thomas also said something along the lines of seagulls are spirits of dead sailors or something.
Yeah. So the seagull is the spirits of dead sailors that have been lost at sea, right? It's their back.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. So I think maybe he's cursed them.
Yeah, because
Because
it's
from here it
literally
gets really
as the seagull is killed that the wind changes.
Yeah. Another bit of bad news: all the rations get wet or soiled. Although there's actually another weird bit, and it does this kind of thing a couple of times. Winslow, Ethan Winslow says something like the Mercy. I think the ship's called the Mercy that's supposed to pick them up. Is like, it's supposed to be here yesterday, and then Thomas says something along the lines of, "What do you mean? It's been like 2 weeks since it was supposed to pick you up. How long do you think you've been here?" Like, there's a couple of bits like that where something happens, and then Thomas will say something like, "Oh, why did you smash up that boat like that?"
Yeah,
Like
so it's either I guess there's interpretations of it here. Either either good old Tommy
Willem.
Tommy
Thomas
Wake.
Wake, yeah.
Yeah, Thomas Wake. Because don't say Wake, 'cause it's not Alan Wake. It's Thomas Wake. Either he is, and I think they even suggest in the film, like either he is also imaginary, or lots of things are hallucinations to him, like the loss of time, the mermaid, the things that are going on with him, or Thomas Wake is the best gaslighter since Midsummer.
I think the best gaslighter. I mean, we've heard his farts. We know he's full of gas. He knows what to do with it.
He's got to light it.
Yeah.
He's lighting all that gas. And he goes, maybe it was me that smashed up the boat. I'm going mad. But yeah, he kind of has a go at, he's come back and he's said this about the time, and you've still got to do the work until it's there. But yeah, the rations have got wet. But rations there that they got wet. No tinnies of beans and stuff. It was obviously all instant mashed potato, I guess.
Or smash. I mean, what rations do you have in your house? Have your rations ever got wet?
No, my rations haven't. And I think a lot of the rations
keep them in a
we
cool,
have,
dry cupboard. Keep
them in a cool, dry cupboard.
Yeah.
Your tinnies of soup aren't going to go bad.
Yeah.
If they get a bit wet, labels might soak off, bit of pot luck, but they're all right.
I always thought, like, in a post-apocalyptic world, like a tin of ravioli or something would like last forever. But it's not the case. Like, some tins will hold true for many, 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 many years, but some of them won't, and they'll kind of all rotten inside. So you've got to be careful.
You got to make sure you're
in a cool, dry place.
Cool, dry cupboard, not in a damp outside where the water's going to get them and send them bad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they dig up some rations, like a little store. I think it was supposed to think it's food, but it's actually just several bottles of rum or something.
Just big old bottles of gin, tons of the stuff.
Yeah.
Like a bit of gin. And I guess that's where their problems begin, right? Because they just
begin.
Yeah. Just start hammering the gins, and we have several scenes of them just sitting on the floor, absolutely bellowing, doing some of the shouting game.
They sometimes they're drinking gin, and they're not even. When you smoke, you're supposed to inhale the smoke. That's how it gets inside your body. They're doing the drinking without the inhaling bit. Like, they just put it in their mouth, spitting it out on the floor.
Yeah. This is also where they have I think this is some of their conversations. I was about to say drinking them like Stone Cold Steve Austin, but they have they have like a Stone Cold Steve Austin off. They're there sitting there. They've been drinking their gin, reminiscing about the fact the boat hasn't come, and then Willem Dafoe says to Rob Pattinson, "What was your favourite era of the wrestling?" And you think Stone Cold Steve Austin does, and they take it in turns to go, what, and they just shout what at each other. And then
why did they do that? I can't remember. That's a good moment.
They're just shouting what at each other excessively, and then Rob Pattinson Winslow becomes an unnecessarily mean drunk and goes, "Oh, like." It's one of those things, isn't it? When someone just like out of the blue picks on something, and it's like, oh, I knew food's dead shit. You're such a bad cook. And Willem Dafoe's like, "You're fond of me lobster, though, aren't you? I knew you were fond of me lobster."
like genuinely offends him that
Yeah.
he's not a fan of the lobster. This is what sends Thomas over the edge, and he does that like 20-minute. I'll be honest, it's like a 20-minute long monologue of him cursing Robert Pattinson out, but it is amazing. Like the descriptions he uses to kind of describe this Promethean hell that's gonna come.
It's going to come in, and then he summons Triton to come out of the water with his crown of cockle shells, and he'll pump him full of seawater until he fucking bursts.
Like the description is amazing. Like it's so good, and it's like it's played to perfection by Willem Dafoe. Like he completely never misses a beat. He's always angry or like always like on point as he's saying it. It's so good. It's like Shakespearean, like you said.
Yeah. It's such a well delivered like curse that he like kind of places on him because he doesn't like his cooking.
Yeah.
And he's still and again they kind of simmer down a bit, and they there's a bit where they've have a moment of calm, and he still won't show him the light. So this is when I guess it's in the day, because he runs the night shift to run the light. So it must be in the part of the day. He goes into his room. Willem Dafoe is snoring away, and he's pocketed a knife earlier on. And he kind of contemplates stabbing him to get the keys, but he gets a bit like, Rob, he should learn, old Winslow.
Yeah.
Much like when he was touching up the mermaid he thought was unconscious. He's about to steal the keys from Thomas Wake, and he wakes up. He goes, "Yeah, funny way to wear your shoes." Is he
not wearing his shoes at that moment or something?
Tiptoeing in, maybe.
Yeah.
It's a funny way to wear your shoes. And he goes,
well, we're going to say someone. I'm going
to stab you. I was just making sure that no one was going to wake you up.
Weirdly, Thomas Wake doesn't seem that bothered. He rolls over and just lets out a giant fart. I mean,
he does. That's what pushes him over the edge.
Is this film like the gassiest film ever made, do you think? Like it's gassy with loose buttocks abandon.
Yeah.
It goes all out.
The sphincters in this film could not be looser. They're just dropping out. So right. He turns around and does some fats. And this is when we see more just Winslow absolutely losing it. He's like bobbling his head around and just going mad while he's like doing his duties. This is when he is like fetching the lobster pots over the edge, and he has like a montage of trying to wank over the scrimshaw, having nightmares about tentacles. I think he either imagines or does go up to the loft again the previous night, and he looks like there's stuff dripping down from the ceiling. Willem Dafoe always locks the trapdoor to the top, and for good reason, safety reasons that we learn later.
He sees a tentacle, right? Is that?
Yeah, he sees a tentacle. He sees an ooze dropping down, and this is like what begins a montage. I mean, we've skipped over it entirely. His duties have been really harsh. Like Wicker's had him painting the lighthouse and dropped him over the side already, and all sorts.
Yeah, that's funny.
That was probably the first gasp of the movie I had when he was like, "That's fine. Is it you're gonna drop?" You know, when like in real life, when you see someone's gonna have an accident, you're gonna drop that. You're gonna hurt yourself. Oh, I'm not. It's fine. He stops squirming. Immediately blames him.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think in the lobster pot he finds the head.
Yes, pulls up the lobster.
Wiki.
Right, and he finds up the previous lighthouse keeper who Wake has told him earlier went mad and died.
Yeah.
And he has one eye as well.
Oh yeah. So this is the we'll get to it. I guess we'll have to have like our theories of what we think happens in this film. But he goes to tell they get super drunk. I think they even nearly kiss at one point. that night.
Yeah,
which
this
is
is
weird.
it's crazy because they've done like really big sea shanties that they were like doing shouting songs.
Yeah,
And then Willem Dafoe is like hugging him and having a slow dance and singing him "Love Me Tender" or something.
yeah.
And then you're right, they almost have a kiss,
And
but
then
then
they
do the
wrestle.
typical. Yeah, they literally like he does it, and then literally goes back and he puts his fists up and like lamps him,
Yeah,
and then they're like lying together on the floor, and then he tells him, said, "Oh, my name isn't really Ephra Winslow. To make things confusing, my name is also Tom. My name's Tom Howard."
but Bingy is
And-
constantly saying, "Don't spill your beans. Don't tell
Don't.
me." Yeah,
Yeah, don't spill the beans. You gotta tell me as well. I'm gonna. And he didn't kill the platinum blonde bombshell, the real Ephra Winslow, but basically much like Tom Wake, he was his boss. He was always getting on him for not doing his work hard enough. And then when there were logs, they saw basically a load of logs rolling down towards them very dangerously. He could have done something to like save him. He could have like taken an action that would have saved him, but he just did nothing and let him get smashed by the logs to death.
yeah.
And then took his identity, knowing that this guy had prospects and an actual life, so he could pretend to be him.
Then it takes another turn for the weird. So after telling him that story, like it cuts to a little bit later in that night where Thomas has disappeared. I think he's in the lighthouse again, and we just hear his voice. Like the camera, it's like a steady cam moving through the lighthouse very creepily, and we just hear Willem Dafoe's voice saying, "You shouldn't have spilled your beans," over and over
you
again.
shouldn't have spilled your beans. And is this where it slips into like a dream sequence? Like he goes, he goes up to the top of the lighthouse, even though he couldn't because it's locked, and he sees himself lying on the floor, and then naked Willem Dafoe is dressed as King Triton, I guess, and he's got him in the headlights that come from his eyes.
Yeah, I mean that's what's the word? A tableau sort of thing where it's like a recreation of a painting or something. Like it's bizarre, but it is really effective, kind of Lynchian in a way.
Yeah.
Like I mean that one little 2-minute scene feels like a 2-minute setup, feels like it's got so many. Who knows if Eggers was like, this means this is a metaphor for how Thomas Wake is the lighthouse, or I don't know what metaphors are in that scene, but it feels so heavy with metaphor.
Yeah, it's absolutely loaded with like visual meaning, and I'm sure like see in our reviews, like we don't have those film school credentials to go through this, but there's a lot of meaning and symbolism in here, like the fact that he's looking at a version of himself and the guilt that we know that he has about this other man that he's now revealed, and then the eyes of like this fatherly figure who invokes all these things of authority are like looking down at him,
shining a light on his shame. There's lots. We get it. Young Freud, other names of people. We understand exactly what they're going for. Yeah,
we understand it. Yeah, we get it.
So he shouldn't have spilled his beans, but he did.
He did.
Oh, and then the next day he tries to get off the island. He's got the little boat. He's trying to get it out. It's got on the pedalo. It's trying to get it out, but the seas are super
got a little
choppy.
swan boat. Yeah, and he's about to bring it out, but he doesn't even get a chance to have a go at it because Willem Dafoe comes out and then screams that he won't leave him and smashes the boat up with an axe. And this is before he does his gaslight, and he chases him in. Yeah, and then moments later, it's like, you're losing it, Tom Howard. You're losing it already. Maybe you should give me that knife that you put away because you lost it a minute ago when you smashed up that boat and then chased me in here.
Yeah. He says it's company property and then snaps it. Take that out of your wages. Yeah.
So he's sort of a bit resigned to it here, that he's lost it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we proceed, I guess, to like the gin has run out, and now they're having like extra spicy drinks that are made of terps and honey.
Yeah.
And they are
Don't they get like next level wasted?
Absolutely. They're sitting like at the bottom of the stair tower, aren't they? Just like bellowing and looking up at the sky.
And like the next morning, the house is a complete wreck.
Yeah, the storm has got in and it's flooded it. But so now, you know, Howard, the lighthouse keeper, formerly known as Ephra Winslow.
Yeah.
Like he goes up and he finds in the logbook that Willem Dafoe's been slagging him off in his diary. Like, you know, dear diary, dear diary, Ephra's an absolute bitch. I hate him and he shouldn't be paid. And this is when he loses it. And then Willem Dafoe gets up, he comes down from tending the light for the day, or being hungover, and this is when he loses his mind and says that he can't stand it with your shitty work and the condescending attitude, and most of all, the fats. Hates him.
The farts. He's like completely losing his mind over them.
Cannot deal with the farts that pushed him over the edge.
Yeah.
Like basically, if he'd had really poor working conditions, but the guy had a good diet and not done loads of farts, he would have been fine.
Yeah. So they get into a big scrap at this point, right? And then basically, oh yeah, so I remember now. So Winslow starts like pummeling him in the face, and then he starts having visions of the mermaid.
The other thing, having sex with the mermaid,
and then
seeing
Triton, Willem Dafoe as Triton with tentacles.
Seeing him with tentacles, and seeing the original Winslow as well, like looking up at him, he's just really punching on, and he kind of whimpers that he's killing him, and he stops, and then I mean, up to a point, you might witness that it was 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. That they're both bad. They're both winding each other up. They're two men at the edge. But I feel like Winslow takes a turn here, and he's like, bark like a dog, and the defeated Wake is like, ruff, ruff, ruff. And the next thing you know, he's got him out on a string for a walk. Do you want to go for a walk? I wonder how much he sold the thing after he'd done the barking. He was like, right.
Yeah.
Do you want to go for a walk? Right, get your lead. Pour. Have it on then. Off we go.
Yeah, and then play dead. He puts him in a hole.
Starts burying him alive.
Yeah, so this is another bit. So as Thingy is being buried alive, Willem Dafoe, he's like delivering another one of his amazing monologues. As his like mouth's like filling up with dirt. And I mean, is that real dirt? It looks very real.
Looks like real. Yeah, I think Willem Dafoe probably committed to go for that. He was like, yeah, go ahead. You I'll deliver these lines. You chuck dirt on me as you see fit. And so he does. He's going, and this is where he's cursing him not to be burst by a Triton, but for like a real Promethean death.
Yeah, like a never-ending. So Prometheus, what is it? So it's the eagle that takes out his liver every day.
Prometheus stole the fire from the gods and gave it to men.
Yeah.
So the gods say that he'll basically get chained to a rock every day. Birds, I think an eagle comes and pecks his liver out, and then every night it will grow back.
Yeah. So he says you'll have a Promethean style death, or he wishes that kind of death on him. But before he buries him completely, he remembers about the lighthouse, and he takes the key.
I'll have a go on that light at last.
Yeah. Takes the key, goes back inside the house for some reason. I can't remember why. And he's drinking terps and smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, he has one last sip of terps for the road before I hit the stairs.
Yeah. And then gets wanged in the shoulder with an axe.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe sneaks up and goes, surprise, motherfucker, and just gets him.
Stealth attack. Yeah. I mean, I think he doesn't seem that bothered. I mean, he takes the axe, and it's actually quite brutal. Like he slams the axe into Willem
The
Dafoe's
upper
head.
arm. Yeah, he gets it in the upper arm, but he disarms him. Not himself. He basically whips the axe out, and then really, after everything that's gone on between them, quite unceremoniously kills Tom Wake. He literally just shoves him on the floor and axes him in the chest, maybe.
I thought it was in the head, but maybe I don't know if it's in the chest.
It's kind of on the floor, isn't he? So you can't.
Yeah, you can't quite. You just see like a splish and a splash of gore.
But definitely, he's got him. He's done.
Yeah.
And then he heads up the top. Unlike Willem Dafoe, who every time he went up through the light, he always closed and locked the trapdoor. And at first, you thought that was just being selfishness, keeping him out. But now we learn that it's for an important health and safety reason, because Howard goes up, he puts the light on, absolutely loses it. At first, he finds it quite soothing, but then he screams the scream of the movie in like reverse polarization. So he is like, the whites and the blacks have been reversed on the film, and he's just screaming as loud as he can, like straight down the barrel of the camera.
His teeth are like disappearing, and like it's all going blurry and grainy. The scream is distorted to the point where it's like shouting through an old telephone. It's awesome. Like I love this kind of, like, in terms of the AV presentation of the audiovisual experience is next level. Like it's so good.
Yeah, it's absolutely top drawer stuff.
And then it cuts to him falling down the stairs
because
like
he didn't lock the trapdoor.
Yeah.
And then he has a right old tumble down, and obviously the problem with Lighthouse is no landings. It's all spirals all the way down. So he just like goes,
like
gambles all the way down,
falling down. Yeah. So then I think we cut to that kind of strange ending. So he's on the beach. His eye's been pecked out, and the seagull, I think the one-eyed seagull, is pecking his guts out. It's like pecking through his exposed intestines, and he's naked. So,
they've taken his clothes off as well, those seagulls.
Yeah. We'll have to take him off to get to the guts, gut stuff. So are we made to think that he's in some kind of limbo hell now? Like he is going to live like a Promethean eternity, being pecked to death by the souls
being tortured by the sailors. So maybe he's in there. But and another thing I noticed in this last scene as well is that he's on the shore, but for a feature of the entire film, you don't see the lighthouse, as I remember, in the last scene of the film.
Yeah, and he didn't have, when he was with the Fresnel lens, as he was like reaching into it, he didn't have the cut on his shoulder. Like
okay.
I noticed that. I wasn't too sure if it was meant to be. Maybe it's just obscured, but I couldn't see any blood or mark on his arm at all. So it's almost like it didn't happen, that bit.
Yeah. So that I guess that is a thing, and I wish I'd had the time to read it before we got together and record today. So I guess one of the arguments could be is, did Tom Wake truly exist, or as he suggests himself in the film, is he also imaginary? Is the lighthouse real? Is a lot of it to do with
is he just in some limbo hell of his own mind?
Yeah.
Of guilt or whatever.
Yeah, is it the guilt, or or is that the state of him? Is that something he's done to himself after having imagined everything that's happened in the lighthouse? Has he just gone into the wilderness and drunk loads and I things like the axe injury didn't happen?
I love that kind of ending where it's you aren't given all the answers, but you're given so much to try and piece together.
I don't think there has to be a right or wrong answer to this either. I think it could quite easily be that it was a spooky time and he's gone mad and that's what's happened. And now, the state of him, he has ended up like injured and stripped off, and actual seagulls pecking away at him. Or it could be all those other metaphorical bits.
Yeah. Cool. And then there's the Robert Eggers style credits, that font that he uses and everything. It looks really good, really old timey movie looking.
A great little shanty to finish with.
Yeah, I've got some name game for you. If you
good. I've got a couple for you as well. Ready?
Perfect.
Little share, but yeah, you go.
So this first one might be the obvious one. Got to get it out of the way. 2 toilet cleaners try to maintain their sanity whilst living on a remote and mysterious toilet cubicle.
Is that the Shite House?
It is the Shite House. Yeah. Let's you go for one. We'll do it.
Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II is finally convinced to bestow an honour upon the actor who played the body of the original Darth Vader.
The body of the what?
So
Knight.
Yeah.
He was
so it's not the voice, but the physical actor.
I don't know his name, but it's not James Earl Jones.
No, it's Night Prowse is what the Queen is encouraged to do.
Okay. This one, 2 lemonade salesmen try to maintain their sanity while shooting each other with hose pipes fixed directly to lemonade pumps. It's actually kind of lemon and limeade, I think.
Sprite, like the Sprite, Sprite Douse.
Sprite Douse, yeah.
Sprite Douse. Looking for a different life, having killed his supervisor through negligence in his old job, Thomas Howard decides to open a restaurant in Liverpool, but unfortunately his meat-based stew that he makes there is really just run-of-the-mill, almost unremarkable, really. It's really kind of all been seen and done before.
So something Scouse.
I had to look up the definition of the word. It's trite Scouse is what he's
Scouse.
making. That's the name of his restaurant.
Yeah. Very good. Last one from me. A superheroine. She becomes an incredible fighter whenever she wears a loose-fitting upper garment. Like a cardigan, I guess.
Is this superhero Mike Blouse?
Close. It's because of an incredible fighter. Kind of giving it away there.
Oh, Fight Blouse.
The Fight Blouse. Yeah.
The Fight Blouse. And the last one I have for you is that in even a stormy environment where water is very deep in a young boy's home, thanks to his special flood trousers, his ankles are soaking wet, but his trousers are actually bone dry, and everything is coming up for this young man.
Something Millhouse, dry.
It's just Millhouse. Oh. Everything's coming up Millhouse.
Okay.
That's it.
Well done. Nice one. So we need to rate the film. Rate good or rate bad?
If you want me to go firstly, where you gather your thoughts, I thought this was rate good. Not a shite house at all.
Yeah. Not a Sprite Douse.
Yeah. More of a Sprite Douse, which would be lovely and refreshing on a summer day.
Yeah.
Oh,
sticky,
lovely.
But nice. Yeah.
At the time, if you could go and rinse off afterwards. Yeah, in the moment, perfect. Yeah, I think this is an incredibly interesting film. I think it's one of those that it's a shame that it disappeared from Netflix, just as we were going to have the opportunity to watch it time and time again. I'm a little disappointed that I rented rather than bought it, because I think this is one that's going to be worth revisiting over time, because I think there's so much depth there to get from this movie, and I have no doubt that in this watching to get to this, there are moments that I've missed from it, but you cannot fault some of the incredible performances, some of the depth. I can understand why when you're looking at it, the critic reviews outstrip the viewer reviews, because I think as a viewer, there is every chance you would bounce off this movie, and it is too everything for
Yeah.
for what your general public audience might like. And there's a lot in there that is suggested rather than told, and you have the ambiguity of the ending and so on. So totally get it. Not for everyone. I am really keen to watch this again, and I think it's an incredibly well made and acted piece of cinema. So I'm going to give this. Oh, do I go A- or do I go B+? Because I'm trying to think of it in terms of public appeal. You know what? I'm going to go B. No, fuck it. I enjoyed it. A-. I'm going to go for. Great, not for everyone, but I think you should recognize how ambitious and how well made this film is. So an A- from me.
Yeah, you completely agree. I can understand why some people would not be into. If you tell your dad, "Hey, Dad, do you want to pop to the cinema with me?" And there's three options. One of the options is black and white. I know it's not your favorite kind of movie, Dad. The ending is ambiguous, and it's slightly arty, and it's just two guys basically arguing for a while. When I watched it, my dad would be like, "That doesn't sound like my kind of thing." However, if
When's
it
the new
was,
James Bond on? He'd say,
yeah. However, if I told him about the Northman and said, "Yeah, it's kind of like a brutal revenge story about a Viking," he would go to see that, and they're both kind of similar in some ways. They both have a certain. I mean, Robert Eggers. I don't know how he gets the actors to do the things that he does in all of his films. All three of them, for me, he is such an amazing filmmaker. Like, so precise. Everything that he does is so no half measures at all in anything that he does. This is my favorite of the three that I've seen, and they're all amazing. I think I gave The Witch an A-. I think I'm going to give this one an A- as well, but I don't know, it's pretty much an A. I'm going to give this one an A.
Yeah, do it.
It's also, I know, I can understand why people wouldn't like it, but for me, I don't know, it ticks all the things that I like. I want to watch YouTube videos about like explanations of what is going on at the end, and it's got the gruesome bits as well. Like it's got the bits of horror that I need. I want. It would have been cool to maybe go all the way horror at the end, but I don't know if it needed to.
I can see why they made the choices that they did. I think if you are, and it's a very different film, the comparisons will end with the very swift one I'm going to make, but look at what happens when you do lean into a supernatural ending. 21 Cloverfield Lane, great movie.
Yeah.
In many ways, actually, maybe I will draw more comparisons. The tension and the interpersonal relationships you get in the bunker itself are one thing. But then that went in the direction that this film didn't. You could have had an ambiguous ending. You could have had something that was a little more abstracted and uncertain. Whereas 21 Cloverfield Lane, spoilers for that, now quite old movie. It is big aliens and she fights them, and that's what happened.
It's awesome as well.
Yeah, we should do an episode of that. Have we not done that? But yeah, this goes in a different direction, and I think you would see both criticized for the opposite reasons. One, because you just did the route one explanation, and the other one, you didn't really explicitly explain. But I'm like you, I think it's a sign of a good movie, and it's a sign that I enjoyed it because I care enough to go and seek out essays and opinions on that, and I'm probably going to do it having talked about it. It's quite late today, but maybe tomorrow, cup of tea, sit and read a little bit more about what the ending meant and what people have interpreted it as.
Yeah. Even the Wikipedia page is full of little insights. Like, that bit we mentioned, the tableau bit where the lighthouse has, there's a painting that is very similar of a guy grabbing a guy by a shoulder and like beaming lights into his eyes. So yeah, it's I don't know, it's awesome. I wonder what he's going to do next, Robert Egg. Oh, Nosferatu.
Yeah.
That almost feels like it'd be a bit too safe. Like, I'd prefer him to do more of his own stuff rather than IP.
It'd be interesting. It would depend how closely does it, because like from a visual style, if he was doing if Robert Eggers was going to do a Zack Snyder on this one and look like do a frame for frame lift and like capture the visual moments, but do just try to retell the original story of Nosferatu, it'd be one thing. And you watch films like this and The Witch, and you can see that he clearly has the visual eye to do that.
Yeah.
But I think with the choices he makes and the work he gets out of the actors as well, it would be a waste not to give it the, that focus and that freedom to do something a little different. And I guess with a film like Nosferatu, which is how old? Over 100 right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, now that it's 100 years old, hopefully the original fans that it was their childhood aren't alive to say that he's ruined it. Oh, you've ruined it. I remember seeing this at the cinema. No, you didn't. You're dead. You're definitely dead if you remember seeing this at the cinema.
Yeah. You just got to wait 100 years before you can remake a film these days.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that's that. I don't know if we've decided what we're doing next week just yet.
We've got, because we're starting a new month next week, so we've got some things we talked about on the agenda. I can throw out a couple of things on the maybe pile, and then if there's any of these that particularly resonate with anyone, let us know, and there's more chance that they'll stick. But
yeah,
we have Firestarter that's coming out in cinemas next month, so we're talking about perhaps doing that in combination with the original, the little Stephen King adaptation.
Yeah.
And then we've thrown out another couple of examples. Ben, when he was telling us he couldn't make it to record this week, said he had got a little bit of a hankering to watch an AVP movie. I think we talked about maybe something with space aliens in it as a hype builds for Nope. So maybe something like A Fire in the Sky, perhaps.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned The Wishmaster just for shits and giggles. Anything that you might want to see next month, Luke?
The Wishmaster, actually. Oh, you should have done that Mirror Mirror film, which might be awful. I don't know. It might be great. It might be awful. From like the it had the my brain's gone now. What's the woman from Stranger Things called again?
Oh, Millie Bobby Brown.
No, the mum.
Oh, Winona Ryder.
It had like a young Winona Ryder type of person in it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
Okay.
We'll look that up along with Hunter x Hunter. Is it
Hunter
films that have got
something? This
Hunter
was called
and
Mirror Mirror
Mirror?
something. Yeah. Mirror Mirror something, Hunter x Hunter something.
So we'll find out what those films are called, and then maybe throw them in the pile as well. And we'll watch. It's a 4 Wednesday month next month, so we'll watch 4 of those things next time.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, you want to support the show, and if you want to get some bonus content, I think Ben and Andy are going to be doing a Resident Evil movie tier list. Best of, I don't know what we call those things anymore.
Get a cheeky little ranking out.
Ranking
yeah, we're doing that this week.
So you can get that by going over to patreon.com/horror hangouts. Thanks to our current patrons, Lane Spencer, John Crennan, Ben Scaife, Stephen Christopher, Toby Miller, Laura Kendrick, Scott Rigby, Ollie Child, Julia Bilgren, Leslie Carlo, and Pazuzu. And
Thank
of course,
you guys.
Yeah, thanks very much for supporting the show. That's amazing. And of course, thanks to Kovac Cowman for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Thanks for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe. And thanks to my co-host Andy for being a right horror dude.
Thank you for joining me once again, Luke. And Ben, we'll see you next time, wherever you are.
Cool. Lovely. All right.
Bye for now, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.